Two separate planes here, each saved from a disastrous decal debacle. Here's a plane so small that it will test your patience, and when you get to the decals, they're so big that test will continue. To be fair, this isn't the most exciting build, but that changes when you get to the decals. Lots of color, and they make the planes really stand out. Don't forget the nose weight, because the instructions sure did. Superglue plus something made of metal placed somewhere near the nose of the aircraft. The seam line runs down the sides of the fuselage as opposed to the top and bottom. That doesn't matter. It still gets filled and sanded with superglue. Maybe next time I'll use black superglue so I can see what's happening. The tape isn't 100% necessary, but helps manage the overspread. A few rounds of sanding later, it's ready for primer to reveal the imperfections. There are a few. The process will be repeated in the problem areas. I used putty this time because I feel it's more forgiving and easier to scrape off the excess. One of the aircraft has a gray underbelly, so I spend 30 minutes masking it off. Then a punch and die set is used to make the curved line at the tail, where the two sides connect. Punch a hole in the tape, over plastic sheet, then cut it in half. I made several of these, just guessing until I hit on the right size. This is just thinned down acrylic paint over a gloss coat to get the fan blades painted. I made a mistake and had a huge paint smudge, so the reason I use acrylic is so I can rub it away with water, just don't let it dry too long. Besides the end, we have reached the most satisfying part of the build, peeling off all the tape. It's also semi-stressful because you find out how much touch-up work you'll have to do. I haven't built a single airliner where I haven't had to do some level of touch-up painting. At this point, it just seems inevitable. Wet sanding with water and a sanding cloth really helps get the surface super smooth and ready for decals. And I only do this over a clear gloss coat. Yep. I picked the decal off the sheet and stuck it onto the wrong side of the plane, still making rookie-level mistakes. This started as one large decal with the red flares in the rear, but I cut it in half to make it easier to work with. I also flood the surface with microset, or you can use water. To be honest, I can barely tell the difference. It helps the pieces slide around with ease. This is also why I spend the time wet sanding to make the surface ultra smooth. It was at this point I decided the underside decal was too much to manage at the same time. So I took it off while I positioned the other two fuselage sides. Since the two fuselage decals connect in the rear and underside with a third red decal, I tried to do them all at once. Super ambitious, but you need to position them all perfectly in relation to one another, or else something will end up crooked or overlapping. Then I set them in place with microsol and added that third and final decal back in. I used a cotton bud to roll out the wrinkles and then keep repeating the process with more microsol until all the wrinkles are gone. I took a couple weeks off before starting the decals on this second jet so I could recover from the first. Although there are only a couple decals, these large all-in-one decals are some of the hardest to apply. The first side went on decently well, but the second nearly turned into a disaster. The key here is to work with soft brushes so you don't rip the thing apart, and keep it moisturized. I deliberately did not cut the decal into sections so as not to ruin the consistent blue stripe. Of course, it tore while I was positioning it, but with some careful attention and more decal softener, that tear line can be hidden in the final result. The two sides obviously must join, and the nose becomes a problem area. They didn't line up. I got them as close as possible and set them in place even though there was a gap. I protected the decals with a gloss coat so that I could mask over them without peeling them up. I find a close matching color of blue and let it fly. Great success, and it blends right in. I have to give Dragon some credit for how well the wingtip fences are molded onto the wings. I snagged these many times throughout the build process, and they never bent or broke. Frankly, that was shocking. But I guess I've been due to catch a break at some point. Hope you enjoyed this build, and I'll be back soon with another.